Hey guys, have you heard of the OA trips?
Oh, hey. Yeah, I've heard of them, but I don't know if I'm sold. Like, are they safe, fun, and would I want to do them again?
Come on, let's check it out. I heard it's safe, fun, and everyone wants to do it again.
Okay, let's go check it out.
Round, round, get around, I get around, yeah, get around, round, round, I get around, I get around, round, round, I get around, get around, round, round, I get.
So, there's rumors that OA trips are really fun, safe, and that I'd want to do them again. But I don't know. I'm just not sure. What is OA? What's OA all about?
Outdoor Ventures is a place that tries to give students the opportunity to experience the great outdoors. We run trips to places like Yosemite, the Grand Canyon, and the Channel Islands.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. I love what you guys do. What does it take to be a guide, and how do you guys make your trips successful?
The success at OA is determined by its guide teams, the people who lead each trip. If you're more interested, I can show you the guide wall, which determines your guide level.
Awesome.
Okay.
At Outdoor Adventures, there's 3 levels of guides. Starting off, we have the apprentice guide, who has a limited number of skills and is still making their way up the mountain. Up here, we have level 2 guides, which are guides that have developed a more conducive set of skills and try to support trips in most of the ways we need them to. And at the top of the mountain, we have lead guides, which are guides that have proven their worth and have completed all the necessary requirements to finish their job as an OA guide.
Hey Riley, I just have a couple questions for you. What are your personal abilities that contribute to the team?
Definitely like a guide team.
Yes.
So I have all 3 of my certifications needed to be a lead guide. So I got my commercial driver's license over this past semester, so that allows me to get people where they need to go. I have my LNT. I actually got my LNT certification as a freshman on a backpacking trip. So I know all the principles, I'm able to teach those, and then I also went on a backpacking trip through the National Outdoor Leadership School this summer and got my master educator, so I can now teach other people LNT skills, which is really helpful. And then instead of my WAFA, I have what's called a WFR, a WFR, a Wilderness First Responder certification, which is an 80-hour medical certification. So I went through training to make sure I feel really prepared to tackle any emergencies in the field. And then on top of that, I've done all of the OA training, so I've done all the leadership trainings, all the group facilitation trainings. So I definitely have all of those in my back pocket to bring to the group and teach new guides to do the same.
Wow, that's awesome. I wish I had those skills. Are you also aware of your team members' abilities?
Definitely. Every time we go out on a trip, we have our guides meet beforehand, because some people haven't guided with each other before, and we go through our strengths, our weaknesses, what it looks like to be angry on a trip, what it looks like to be tired, and how we respond in those different situations, and how we can work as a guide team to help us all succeed in running a successful trip.
Perfect. So are tasks divided based on ability?
Definitely, it depends on the guide team, but we all kind of have these different roles that we play. Usually there's a lead guide and guides under them, and so we can divide tasks that way. Sometimes.
Are teams designed with each member's unique ability in mind?
Definitely, yeah, we try, when we create the guide teams at the beginning of the semester, we try to get a balance of everybody's abilities. So we always want to make sure we have enough first aid on trips. We want to make sure that we have plenty of people who are extroverted versus introverted. We try to make sure that everyone really gets the opportunity to grow in what they're doing, but also have people who can help them grow in a leadership team.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna ask a few questions about roles, member roles.
All right.
Guide team. So, what are the OA leadership roles?
So we have 4 leadership roles. You kind of fall into one of 4 quadrants. There's relationship master, which is what I am. It's very much you keep up the emotional stability of the group. You're very much in tune with what your participants are feeling and how to relate to those people. There's the drivers. Drivers are the people who really get the group motivated, get the group going. They're really goal-oriented. They're trying to get to the summit. They're trying to make sure that we're always on time, things like that. There's architect analysts who are more of the quiet logistic people in leadership roles. So they're the people who get you out the door. They're the people who have the plan, the itinerary for the day. That's kind of the architect analyst role. And then the last quadrant is spontaneous motivators, who are kind of like the fun people. They're really good at keeping up the morale of the group, having a lot of fun and making sure that everyone stays lighthearted, even though we are goal-oriented.
Okay.
It's always really good to be paired with an architect analyst. Is one of my favorite people to work with when I'm out guiding, because they're very much logistics based, and we find a really good balance between us. Usually, one of my best friends is an architect analyst, and when we guide together, we find a really good balance of like me taking the emotional temperature of the group and her being really able to get us out the door and have the plan, and us being able to bounce off each other.
And how does your role contribute to the overall success of the trip? A fun and safe trip that people would want to do again?
Definitely. I think building that community is something that draws a lot of people to OA, and I think having the ability to practice that, like being a relationship master and having practiced that for a couple years now and really honing in on my abilities there, has allowed me to really feel like people are invited back once they leave a trip or once they have come into the office.
On a trip, do you find that you sometimes have to change your role, or is it important for you to stay consistent in one role?
Oh, you definitely have to change your role. Sometimes like day to day by trip, sometimes trip by trip. I find myself as the relationship master a lot trying to and having to step into driver and spontaneous motivator, especially when we don't have those personalities in the guide team. We usually guide in teams of 3 is usually the teams we guide in, so we don't always have one of every single leadership style, so you definitely have to find yourself growing and kind of stepping into those other quadrants as well.
Okay. Yeah, and that kind of leads to the last question. Is it essential that every trip have one of each role?
Not necessarily. It's nice to have one of each role, but it's definitely something that we practice training our guides, as well as just as we're guiding, is really being able to step into other roles, even though we have something that we're most comfortable in. Like, obviously I'm most comfortable in relationship master, but being a great guide means that you can step into those other quadrants as well when a trip needs it.
Okay. Well, that's all I have for you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Team composition is a mix of people who make up the team. In OA's case, this would be the guide team. The guides are successful due to the right mix of knowledge, skills, abilities, and personalities. This includes assuming and adopting the leadership roles, and by designing teams that take different abilities and different ability levels into account. As Andrew explained, there are 3 different ability levels that are essential to have a mix of each trip. The variety of certifications and acquired skills allow for OA leaders to be ready for any possible situation. This preparedness is a huge asset to creating the safe aspect of these trips. As for the fun aspect, the leader roles are key. As Riley pointed out, in her role specifically, she was always concerned about the well-being of her members and the general spirits of the group as a whole. The combination of the guide members each fulfilling their roles create a memorable experience that will make people want to come back and allows for community to be built in which people feel comfortable to have fun. So Ian, doesn't that sound fun and safe? Would you want to go on an OA trip with me?
Yeah, I totally underestimated the team composition of member guides to create a safe, fun trip that I would want to do again.
Yeah, the guide roles and the guide's abilities are a great way to make OA fun and exciting. It also makes sure they cover all their bases to make sure they're prepared for any situation.
Young money. Yeah.